No major glitches. The classic category, the old any percent. This category used to be any percent once upon a time and only hasn't been for about 3 years. It is a form of any percent that every console can actually compete in. So there's that. But it used to be known as any percent, of course. Then it got renamed to No Mindy Skip, and now it's No Major Glitches. And if any other massive things get found in future, they will not apply to this category. We don't know what the future of this game is going to look like, so having a category that we can fall back on if all goes to shit is great. But over the years, despite us not being able to do any major tricks, glitches, whatever, this route has evolved a lot for this category. So I wanted to look at some key points of the route changing. And despite this game being linear, there is still quite a bit to go over. And I will say for the 9 millionth video in a row that I don't think this video will be very long, and then proceed to be wrong. So, of course, the route was quite different back in the day, you know, when Watsoup was playing, and Cole only had a bit of experience in the game. Of course, you know, they were trying to iron out some stuff, and it was just a massive mess, so I'm not really gonna go over the routes before the Cole's Amazing 138, because the route was solidified for a while, but Cole's Run is the best example of the route, so I was just gonna show this. However, I will say, in old routes, you should watch a really old run, it's, pretty funny. They, in some really old routes, they weren't even doing Plank Sponge Bowl for some reason, and, some of them even had fucking BBBH combat with, without upgrades and stuff. It's, crazy. I don't know what they were on. But yeah, there was a few, I mean, there were a few things I guess would technically be notable, but this is when, the route was, solidified for a while, and it felt like it couldn't go much further. So, let me just say that there are 68 tokens in the game, and to beat this category, which at this point is any percent, you need, by the time you beat Neptune, you'll have 52 tokens. So, and for Knucklehead, which is the second to last level, there is a requirement for 50 tokens. So, and obviously then you get Knucklehead and Neptune. So at that point, there's very little leniency that you actually have. So what, you know, do you do? What is, solidified, you know? Well, every platforming token in the game is, in the run. It's a lot of them. There are a few tokens that aren't, but we'll get to that. So every platforming, when I say that, I mean, you know, just in the overworld, you know, there might be 3K Bungie, for example, that's a platforming token, that counts. All of those are counted, all of the floating blocks, sponge balls, and combats are in the run, and all of the bosses are in the run. There are a few exceptions. All of the combats, except for Plank Combat, aren't in the run at this point. So, that is -3 tokens. And SCDA Guitar Challenge is not in the run either. All the other platforming tokens are in the run, however, which is a lot of them. Even just, you know, that already means, even just counting the platforming tokens, that is already, 12 tokens out of 3K. And then when you factor BBBH as well, 5 out of the 6. That's 17, and then Frogfish is 18, and then you do all the Now the Men ones except for one, and then that's 23, you do all the SCDA ones except for SCDA Guitar, that's 28, you do Dennis, and then Dennis 2, so that's 30, you do all the Plank ones, so that's 36, and then you do Neptune, that's 37. Might have forgot some, but yeah, it's around that. So we get a lot of tokens from platforming levels. But yeah, we're gonna just quickly... I will also partially go over, in-level routing stuff, but that won't be a primary focus. But, you know, How did the world record get from a 138 to a 120 and with 119 potential? I mean, of course, GameCube routing and stuff. The world record used to be on GameCube and now it's on Xbox. Xbox saves it like a few minutes, but that's not everything, of course. But yeah, obviously, so this game has end-level tokens, and you have to collect end-level tokens. They boot you into the next level, and that can sometimes create route. Sometimes you want to do stuff in a different order, but the last thing you should do in a level, unless it is faster to grab a token later, which is rare, is to grab the end level token to get booted into the next level. So all of those are automatically in the run. There's like 18 levels in the game total, so that's automatically 18 tokens that get added. The path to no cheese is obviously going to be, everybody's going to have to do no cheese. Depression's been done the same way for a long time. So as you can see at this point, so we're grabbing this token early, and this is in, they've been doing that since almost the very beginning, and we do that to this day. Fun fact, in all tokens, it's faster to grab this token later, but it's in this category, it's always been faster to grab it now. So, casually, you're supposed to use SpongeBob's guitar. However, everybody just used to use Patrick's slam and throw, like slamming the foggers and throwing them. But if it's precise, but it is possible with dynamic jumping and spacing of jumps and stuff properly. Spin, double jump, and you make it across. Damage boost up to the buttons, and then you can do this like almost as fast as you could before. But now you can grab the token early. They did this back in the day to save a load. I think that was the reason. And there's another reason as well. GameCube loads. So you're grabbing the token, just bailing. You need 2 tokens for cartwheel, and now you could... Because otherwise you'd have to walk to this next token. So just getting out of the way now, And then, despite the load, it is faster to re-warp to the beginning, and then just do some end-level stuff here. And then, of course, you have sandwich driving, and then, just letting it load a little bit. God, the loads are really long. You know what, actually? I'll be right back, and I'll plug my Ethernet cable in. Okay, I'm back. I just wanted faster internet to, so that'd be easier to, skim through stuff. So obviously, very generic path here. However, okay, so, go to Sponge Bowl, the challenge is right there, so why not? And then, when you get out of it, you just backtrack a little bit over here, and then just do bungee, because it's on the way, collect the token, go through the box, and then, take the trampolines all the way over to the bounce token, and then, just, play it, like, pseudo-casually, do floating block, and then, do Steam to SpongeBob. This is called Patrick Gets Steamed, but it's an easy double jump spin will allow you to do as a SpongeBob, which is technically a routing thing, because otherwise you gotta go to the end of the area, to the level, switch to Patrick, walk all the way back, and it's like the same sort of difficulty, so, yeah, no reason to do that. So, going through the box, and then just grabbing the end-level token. However, there are a few end-level tokens where they don't take away control from the player when they're transitioning to a new level. So in this, the game fades out, so it lets you walk for a second, or just do anything you want. And now, Cole is going to use this opportunity to do sandwich driving. This is a pretty big part of, like, routing, is, like, backtracking. There's a lot of backtracking you gotta do. And yeah, it is all of the so in all sliding and driving levels, which there are 7 total, there will be every sliding and driving level has 4 objectives. The regular main challenge, which isn't the, that could just be a generic drive-through to the end of the level, or it could have a more unique objective. Then there is the second challenge, which is the time challenge. It's just to beat a basic time challenge. The third one is a ring challenge, and if you miss a single ring, you have to go back to the beginning. And a macho time challenge, which is just a harder version of the time challenge. In this category, we will be seeing some of these extra challenges. So here, we'll be seeing sandwich, time, ring, and macho. So we'll be seeing everything. So doing all of the sandwich driving tokens. Because the token requirements are quite strict. Another reason for doing Creek, by the way, is because you need 5 tokens for 3k. And we get 5 by 3k. Otherwise, you'd either have to do Depression Combat, which used to be in the run, but, then eventually players realized was slow. By players, I mostly mean Cole. And, or you would do Sandwich Driving early. However, that would waste a load, because you'd be loading into 3k, you don't have enough, and then you have to load back to Sandwich Driving. So this is the best thing that you could do. I will say that a while, and even after this, actually, players used to not have enough tokens for Now There Were Men, and then they would do Sandwich Driving backtracking, because at this point, the level has no strats, so it's just kind of, nobody likes playing it. It's got nothing going on. Of course, it's got nitro management and movement and stuff, but compared to other levels, it doesn't really have much going on, So, yeah, that's basically... So if you do it now, it's just faster. However, after this, people started playing on Xbox, and it was not as bad of a hit to take to just, suffer through that load. But even then, people eventually stopped doing that. But yeah, so it's just 3 sandwich driving tokens, don't need to see that. The Rubber Dub Warp unlocks when you 2-frame, when you collect the 3k tokens, so we don't need to worry about that. Then, go to Rubber Dub. So, there isn't much you could do here, just playing through a pseudo-casually. In fact, it is mostly casual, there's only one strat, really. And it's right here. It isn't a big thing, it's very easy and saves like 15, 18 seconds. I don't know, we've never timed it because there's no reason to ever not go for it. You're not skipping anything, like, important by doing this, so just, this saves a good chunk, but the rest of this is very, standard shit. Just, like, exactly what you would expect it to be. Next up is BBBH. This didn't used to be in the route, and if anything, this isn't even, this is not very fast on GameCube by today's standards. But now he's gonna do slide jumps. So you see that there are enemies here, but they aren't the same enemies as the ones that you fight at the end of the level when you go down the slide casually. So Cole, this is a 30 FPS level, but Cole's gonna do 2-frame slide jumps, so 2-frame window every jump to get up the slide. And he's going to hit a trigger that spawns the enemies that he needs to kill for a token. And this skips, like, having to go do a lot of just, walking around, basically. However, on GameCube, it really doesn't say very much because of a discovery from, like, 2020. Just, like, a routing thing. But it doesn't apply to this category anymore anyways. Hashtag spoilers. So yeah, just doing disco skip. That's not really, like, a routing thing. So just collecting the SpongeBob token. I will say, because this will eventually not apply, so the warp to SpongeBob is around here, but they didn't know that back then, so you could just go in the menu and warp. However, on GameCube, it'd probably be pretty like, what would barely lose time is to grab the warp here, and then book it to the end of the level. Then, when doing some backtracking stuff, you can warp to SpongeBob, and on GameCube, that'd barely lose time, but that doesn't matter from here on out anyway. So yeah, just doing Sponge Bowl, and then warping back to the beginning to grab the token. That is why, like, you know, it doesn't even save that much, is because the load is slow. Even on Xbox, with today's timings, like, the slide jumps only save, like, 20 seconds. Weenie, you don't really need to worry about Weenie. Frogfish, Rock Slide. I guess the path that you take. In Rock Slide, you just, take this generic path. You do an eel damage boost. And that's, you know... Does this really even count as routing? I don't even know. But there's also a drop you could do here to save quite a bit of time. Then, you can skip a few seconds of movement if you go this way and, like, just skip a small section. And then, finally, there is a flower jump at the end that saves a chunk. And then, finally, you won't see it now, but Cole takes the left path, but the right path is 1 second faster. Next is Now the Men. I'm not sure how... Okay, he has 21 tokens. So you need 20 tokens for Bowl, and he only has 1 token leniency. So there isn't really anything not, you know, there was nothing really worth doing later at this point. So Now the Men, you know, just very generic, like... There's only 1 token in Area 1, other than combat, but that's never going to be seen. So yeah, just doing Bungee, then grabbing the eel, and then going behind the lobster and bowling him a few times. Then, he has a bit of routing stuff, so... Way back in the day, runners used to grab the monster token casually, and then do, like, a spin cartwheel double jump as Patrick... like, over to this token, but now we just do this as Cole Chris Skip. There's just a double bash boost, you know, holding Y during the damage animation, you can get a bash out. Then is a trick known as Monster Skip, and Chris Skip is really free, pretty much, but Monster Skip is hard, so, if you don't want to do Monster Skip, you warp to the second task after collecting the Chris token. And then you do, Floating Block, I think, and then you do Monster, and then Cartwheel to the end level token, but here, doing a pretty, you know... There is technically routing with, like, these cycles, but that doesn't really, you know... It's like, who cares? And then you just get booted out, and you go to the end of the level. Now, SCDA... Sick, and then after that you do SCDA out of bounds. And this is technically a routing thing. You store momentum. You store damage momentum speed. Store it into the ice block, and you have the ice block. You slingshot, essentially, off of the ice cube. And the reason why this matters is because we skipped SCDA Sponge Bowl, and it's a fast token. So now, we're going to backtrack a little bit to grab the warp for the token. Even though the warp is, like... Even though the challenge is way to the right, the trigger is around here. So... And then we just respawn up here. And then, 3-meter island, you just do a bunch of 2 frames, go back down. Then you do floating block. And then you just do the end level token. And then Dennis, Sunday. No, don't really need to see anything here. And then there's Gesk. The objective here is to destroy 3 faucets and then destroy 4 targets, so you can see the route here. A faucet's already in the way, and then you jump to the red wire, and then destroy. That saves a few seconds to destroy that faucet early, and then you go on this path. I think the game expects you to go the long way afterwards, but you can literally just jump to it like this. And then when you get to this red wire area up above, if you die, you'll respawn further up. Like, anywhere in level from this part onwards, if you die, you'll just spawn here every time. So now Cole's going to make his way to other targets. He's going on the yellow wire, grabbing this, jumping down to the orange wire, grabbing this, jumping across, and then to the blue wire, and then grabbing this, and then grabbing that, and then he's going to do a trick known as lamp jump, where you just slow down for a bit, and then double jump up to here. It's a little tricky, but not too bad. If you spend a second or two just slowing down, setting it up, it's easy. But if you miss it, you lose a lot of time. Then Dennis 2, and now here's another routing thing. This was to get enough tokens for Plank. However, I have no idea why Cole did it in this order. You'll see what I mean in a bit. So this is another token where you have free range for a second. So Cole's instead of being warped to Plank, he's going to warp to Rubber Dub. And he is going to do Rubber Dub Time, Ring, and Macho. And there is actually things to do here this time compared to before. There is a trick known as Dumb Jump, and this trick is easy now. It's just abusing coyote frames and good jumping, basically. And sliding off the right part of the track. But basically, you can go off of this ledge, and you get a ton of coyote frames. And you skip a massive section. This saves a ton of time. Skipped a big section. I don't know how much it's saving, like 35, 40 seconds. And then the rest of it is just the same as before. Dumb Jump was considered hard back then, but I still, like, again, we'll get to routing stuff later. And then Macho is exactly the same, so we don't need to see Ring or Macho. And then you warp to Guess 2, which is also Time, Ring, and Macho. However, the objective, there is no faucets or targets you gotta do. Instead, a very hard trick known as Guess Jumps. He's going to jump on here and climb up. All of these jumps are 1 frames. However, on the GameCube version, this level is 30 FPS, so it's not too bad. But it's a bunch of 1-frame jumps up the wire. And then they save, like, if you do them perfectly, well, slow down and then do it perfectly. I think it saves, like, 16 seconds. And then, yeah, you just die in the water tank, and then you spawn further up, and then you just do this. Pretty hard. Ring, you just have to follow the path, and then Macho, you just do the same thing as Time Challenge. Although it's technically harder in Macho, there's more tension because you've already done it once, and now you gotta do it again. The Time Challenge needs to be beaten in, like, 150 or something, so you can only fuck up the jumps a few times. And so on. However, I don't know why Cole did Rubber Dub before Guess, when Guess jumps are just, like, inarguably harder. I really don't know what that's about, but yeah. Anyway, now, finally have, 40 tokens for Plank, and that's important because you need 40 tokens for Guitar here. So he's just gonna immediately upgrade it as well. There is technically, like, manly routing, but we don't need to worry about that for now. All they've upgraded is, bowl, guitar, yeah, bowl, guitar, and then Patrick's cartwheel, slam, and throw. So just doing, the cycle is consistent here. I don't think they had a good cycle, good setup for the cycle at this point. Then, obviously, this wasn't known way back in the day. Plank's routing changed a lot over the years, but it was just easier and more convenient to show you this. So you just get out of bounds really easily, and that clip is it's hyper inconsistent. It could theoretically, I think the longest it ever took me was like 30 seconds or something to clip back in. On average, it'll take like 5 seconds, but there's no actual consistency to it. It's just luck, basically. And then you just grab these tokens, and then you go to combat. You do plank combat, by the way, because there's a joke combat with a jellyfish. Then, as for routing, you skip an absolutely enormous section of the level, and you even get a token out of it pretty easily, and that token casually would have taken like 3 times the amount of time, and would be harder. But you just go out of bounds, and then ceiling swim, and then you make it to the token, and then you warp to its task, and then you go to Area 2. Then, there isn't much to do here, because you just do Sponge Ball, and then it's just a linear path, basically, to the end. And then, at this point, don't have enough tokens. So you gotta do backtracking. And the backtracking has been safe for now because of guitar. You need guitar backtracking. So unfortunately, you just gotta take the hit for the load into Knucklehead, and then you just gotta do backtracking here. So we're just gonna go up to Depression Guitar and do guitar. It's a very fast challenge. And then, Bucket to... So, there is a big separation between, like, the backtracking and the rest of, like, the run. So we will be talking about, like, the order of backtracking and, like, what the backtracking actually entails. Of course, there's other instances of backtracking, but it's more so felt here because they all involve guitar. Not all of them, but most of them involve guitar in some way. Yeah, in late game. So, as you saw, Depression Guitar, very easy. Cole, and you'll see this in Cole's routing in battle as well. When Cole does backtracking, he likes going from top to bottom of the menu, which is probably why he did Rub-a-Dub early as well. But yeah, he likes going top to bottom. At this point, it doesn't matter, like, what order you do the backtracking in, as long as it's obviously, you know, down to up or up to down. Depression is the highest in the menu, and then BBBH and then SCDA. So you wouldn't do BBBH, SCDA, then Depression, but you could do SCDA, Depression, BBBH if you wanted to. But yeah, right now Cole's just doing top to bottom. So he did Depression Guitar, and now he's doing Throwing Fruit. So, you know, pretty basic here. But this challenge was considered a little hard. It was just really, like... It was just kind of hard when you were doing it for, like, this late in the run. Like, an hour 30 into the run. He's just going to collect the token, and then he's going to warp to Guitar. We do not need to worry about anything here. And then he's going to warp to SCDA Sponge Ball, as, of course, we grabbed the warp earlier. And then, finally have 50 tokens for Knucklehead, and then the routing is basically finished. So that's the route at this point. However, it experiences quite the transformation, and we will see that in Chris's, world record from February 25th, 2018, and it stood for a while, too. But this route has quite a few transformations. Hold on. Okay, so, a lot happens. So runners switch to Xbox, and that, you know, sometimes, you know, can save some loads by doing this or that. So, however, No Cheese is going to be the same. Depression will be pretty similar. I could have shown a route from 2016, but we can just do everything in one go here. So again, just doing the same thing with Creek. However, as you can see, Chris grabbed the Chocolate Creek warp. The reason why is because of token 2 frames. Now, these did exist in the past when Cole did his run, but he didn't go for them at all, which I would imagine he forgot about them or somehow didn't know about them. They were found by Hazel, I believe, so I think Cole just didn't know, and then he got lost to time because Hazel barely played the game. But basically, I've explained it a few times before, but you have a 2-frame window to grab these tokens. When you press start, the game advances 1 frame. And in that frame, you could collect the token, but it also works 1 unit back as well. So when you're walking into a token, you press start, and you could get the 2-frame. If the token counter increases and the music is still playing and stuff in the menu, it's the 1 frame. If the token count does not increase until you load to another area, then that's the 2 frame. So they're twice as easy, but much more risky. Chris was going for the 2 frame, and you need to grab the Chocolate Creek warp because we need to warp the creek afterwards. So just take, a tiny bit of a time loss. But even then, another routing thing, after collecting this token, it's just faster to warp to the token anyway, unless your Xbox has bad loads. One thing I will say that Cole didn't do, he was going in the box, and it would actually be faster to drown in the chocolate next to Chris. But yeah, all you really need to know, though, obviously Xbox, you can 2-frame the token, but even if you miss it, you can literally just, Also, the reason why Chris was jumping on the token was because OG's pause button is below the stick, the analog stick, which is a pain in the ass. But yeah, the actual path here is the same. Sandwich driving is going to be, obviously, nitro management is going to be a bit different, but we're not going to look at that. 3K has seen a transformation. So, the beginning of the level is the same. However, SpongeBall is not being done just yet. It's unnecessary walking and stuff. So instead, we are going to grab the bungee warp. Then, we are going to use these trampolines to navigate to SpongeBall. That saves having to go on the rest of the trampolines because we got the bungee warp. And skipped a walk to and from SpongeBall. And what I mean by that is that you can 2-frame this token, but even if you don't, you can just warp to Bungee afterwards, so you don't have to experience the fade out or the load. This saves time anyway, but especially on GameCube, this would have saved a lot. But yeah, Xbox loads are allowing us to do some stuff here. So, then you do Bungee, and this is a token that you can 2-frame. If you get it, it's faster to warp to Bungee afterwards, but if you don't, you just go through the box like Cole did. But this saves 2 seconds. And then after collecting this token, Chris is going to do a trick called Steamed Early. This was known back then, but not thought to be fast on GameCube. Spoiler alert. Well, not really spoiler. It is fast on GameCube. Not by ton, but if you want to get good at the game while also sticking the GameCube, you would do Steamed Early. It'd still save a chunk. Where on Xbox, this shit saves like over 25 seconds, I think. So you're going to go under the level. This skips like having to do a bunch of stuff. Just a bunch, slow walking around and stuff. So you just do some bash boosting, navigating, clip back in. And then you can do the rest of this as SpongeBob. And then you just warp to Steamed afterwards. Then you do floating block. And then you do a new version of Arena Skip because of Steamed Early. You just do a bash boost up here, and then navigate to the end. That is also saves a few seconds in itself. Next up is Rub-a-Dub, and Rub-a-Dub has seen a big transformation as well. So in the first task, Cole grabbed the targets. However, not going to do that here. Why? You'll see later. But for now, all you need to know is that Chris is doing Dumb Jump during this token, when originally that was not done. And then the rest of the level's the same. Then, because of routing shenanigans, we're going to load into BBBH and not have enough tokens. Oh, wait, no, we do have enough tokens, but we don't really have a good place to warp afterwards. So now, we are going to warp back to Rub-a-Dub and do the exact same thing again. Actually, I guess I will say now. So this got discovered in 2016. So Cole came back to Movie for like a week, and he found a big reroute. He found that Rub-a-Dub 4 tokens is not fast. In fact, what is fast is SCDA Guitar and Depression Combat. Oh, well, I thought Depression Combat wasn't fast. They do it in late game now with a ball, with upgraded ball, and that does wonders for you. So, there's no routing in the levels themselves afterwards, really, with one exception. But yeah, for those tokens, so that is why. So you only grab 2 Rub-a-Dub tokens now instead of 4. And what that did, because those tokens are done in late game, we enter Plank with not enough tokens. So, or actually, rather, we don't have enough tokens for, oh, okay, it's more complicated than that, but... Yeah, so, we need a good place for backtracking now, because BBBH has changed, and we'll just leave it at that for now. So, you need to do these 2 rub-a-dub tokens now, and we don't have a good place to warp to. Okay, I'm back again. So yeah, that's just all you gotta do for now, just 2 rub-a-dubs in a row, and then we also take the time to do sandwich driving, instead of at the end of 3K. And this did have a bonus side effect time save that we weren't aware of at this point in time, so I'm just not gonna say it for now. So yeah, the massive transformation in BBBH is that we are only going to collect 1 token here for now. And Chris is taking advantage of us coming here late. We have enough manlies to upgrade Slam and Cartwheel at the same time, so just, you know, it's just saving some scrolls and menuing shit. So yeah, we're gonna do BBBH jumps, but this is the only token that we're gonna collect. Because in late game, we are going to collect the tokens, well, in late game. And that is why we have token issues, which is why we need the rub-a-dub tokens now. Well, I say tokens, but we only got 1 extra one. BBBH Backwards got discovered in, I believe, it was either January or February 2018, but I think it was February. So Weenie is the same except for one thing. Because we're on Xbox, we can grab the final key and just warp back to the beginning. It saves a tiny bit over, you know, just moving back. Rock Slide is exactly the same. Now That We're Men is exactly the same. Except for one thing, technically. It is technically a routing thing. There's a trick called Floating Block Skip, where you just cartwheel off a thing, get a 1 frame, and just skip the entire challenge. Oh yeah, you can 2-frame the Now That We're Men Bungee token, by the way. SCDA is exactly the same. Dennis and Sunday are the same. Gesk is the same. Dennis 2 is the same. We warp to Gesk 2 now and not Rub-a-Dub 2, like I said earlier. And now we enter Plank with, I think 36 tokens, right? Yeah, 36 tokens. However, we are able to bypass this with a bash on the button and then a ledge grab. This saves time anyway. It saves like 6 seconds or something. Over using guitar. So it just worked out good anyway, because you don't have to watch a fucking cutscene, basically. And then this shit is the same, except... Wait, did Chris get... Dude, Chris got double camera lock. That's extremely rare. Basically, we found out that it was fast to grab the combat warp and then grab this token. And you can even 2-frame it, but obviously Chris kind of got fucked, so we couldn't. But yeah, now you can just warp the combat. This would have been fast even on GameCube, but yeah, it wasn't known. This shit's the same. And then we have to warp back to the beginning. It's a side effect of BBBH Backwards. We have to warp back to the beginning and grab guitar, but that doesn't lose like that much, like 10 seconds. And now the backtracking is different from how it used to be. We're still going from top to bottom, and Depression Guitar is still on the run, but now we're doing Depression Combat. Again, you don't really need to see this, but it's just, this is why it's fast. The reason why Rub-a-Dub was so slow with the targets is because you're going around practically casually the whole way, and it's really, really slow, and you have to watch cutscenes and stuff. This is just faster. This does introduce a small RNG element, but it's not like the end of the world, and this is just fast in general. Then, this did make manlies worse. Like, we have nowhere near as many manlies, but right now it isn't an issue. And then, this is BBBH Backwards, and it's pretty fucking big. So, we are going to set up something called guitar storage. So it's basically just with this method we bowl off the pad and then have the guitar text. This will warp you back to guitar normally when you activate it, but we're using it for a big thing. So we're switching to Patrick and we're doing the level backwards. We go up there to skip a cutscene. And we're just moving our way back, right? But the reason why we need it is because of this. When you get warped, if you ledge grab while the game is trying to warp you, it won't warp you. And in the guitar challenge, this floorboard is gone, so Chris fucked it up. He'll get a second try, I believe. And you can just jump above the floorboards. It does turn out that you don't actually... Okay, so this got found in 2013 by Cole, and he just assumed it wasn't fast. And then we found ways to make it faster. Fun fact, by the way. On the day that this got found, I literally said in a server that I don't think a major reroute for any percent will ever happen again. And it's not even like somebody was like, "Oh, I'll prove you wrong." No, it's completely coincidental. Somebody who was not in the server rediscovered this route. So, and again, it's like this is years later. So yeah, completely coincidental. It was literally like 2-3 hours later. We're grabbing the sponge ball warp now to do it later. Oh yeah, it is faster to do this, by the way, still without guitar storage, but it saves more with guitar storage and is easier. And then we warp back, so we grab a checkpoint, and the whole point of that is to drown, and then we get up here a SpongeBob. Normally, you cannot get here a SpongeBob. And what that allows us to do is to cheese the throwing fruit token. Normally, I mean, you saw how it was done earlier, but now we can literally just cheese it and do it as SpongeBob with guitar. And you need to upgrade a guitar for one of the... for the button way at the back. And then it teleports you up here, and then we just do some stuff backwards. There's a few ways you can do this backwards, but this is the fastest way. It's called Electric Bash. You have to be on the right cycle, though. And this may not seem fast, but this movement back to the disco token, it saves like 20 to 30 seconds over doing it forwards. That's like that's a big part of the time save. It's like 20 seconds, and then you can just guitar the back of this, and then you don't even have to do disco skip anymore, although you can also 2-frame this token. And then finally, you just warp to Sponge Bowl, and then you are done. And then, we're not even done with the rerouting, because now obviously there's SCDA guitar. Back in 2016, this shit was considered really hard, because we had no standards. But the way that this significantly changed the run, introducing XD Boost. So instead of grabbing the SCDA warp early, it's faster to grab it now. So, however, there's, Chris got a abysmal RNG, and he missed the trick. So, where these spinners are is RNG, and, he's gonna stand over here, and even the bash boost anyway is hard, but yeah, he's just gonna, it would be faster to warp over to the token. I don't know why Chris didn't do that. But, yeah, that is essentially the trick, and even when Chris did get a second try, he still got, like, kind of below average RNG, so he lost a lot of time. But yeah, it is faster. And then we warp to Plank Area 2. The second token in Plank. Cole just didn't think to do it before. It would, like, Cole, it would have been faster to do backtracking after the Mall Bounce token anyway, but Cole just didn't think to do it in 2014. So that was a time save in itself, and then there was the SCDA guitar and Depression Combat time save, and now there's the, obviously the Xbox and 2-frame routing time save, and just other small things, and then there's, BBBH backwards. So there's a lot that goes into it, and then the rest of the run is the same, except obviously you don't waste a load in Knucklehead. So yeah, that's a lot of stuff. And we just barely managed to scrape it with the route. What I will say... Actually, no, I'll leave it to the next one. So, this is my world record from July. My first world record was in July 1st, but this is July 16. I was doing a pretty advanced route, and in some ways it was actually regression, but we'll get to that. It's still important to talk about it because it's still the evolution of the route. So, the route is exactly the same at first. However, it changes in 3K, so... I'm doing a route here called Floating Block Late, and it's very hard and risky. So I grab the warp now and do it later. And in fact, by later, I mean I warp to it after getting the end-level token. Now, the reason why this is fast is because you can 2-frame the end-level token, and you skip the entire animation, right? And the fade out, and the load. So it saves like 11 seconds. It's really, really risky and very hard, but it is a big time save. Then is Rubber Dub. However, you might tell by my splits that there's no Rubber Dub 2 after Rubber Dub 1. What gives? Well, we found a way to make the backtracking faster. So now we just go into BBBH, and we just do the same old, but the change this time is that we finally realized that we can warp from this key to Rubber Dub and sandwich driving. So yeah, so it was kind of unknown at the time. I did say that it's faster to warp from the key to the beginning, but it was kind of iffy. And then we sort of, like, if you had really good driving, it could be faster to drive back, and if you had slow loads. So, you know, a lot of people were still driving backwards instead of reloading. So, fast forward to, I don't even know when this was, but just sometime between February and July, so probably like April or something. Manix was relearning the run, and he forgot his route. He forgot to do Rubber Dub. So he just did it during Weenie, and then he realized, like, oh, that's probably actually fast. And it is fast. And then he proceeded in that run to tie my PB because he accidentally did a fucking time save. No, I'm not still salty about it. How could you not tell? Anyway. Yeah, so that's just a basic routing thing. I will say we did know at this point that it would save a couple scrolls in the menu to do sandwich driving early, but we just didn't prioritize sandwich driving for an obvious fucking reason, because it's just 9 minutes of just the same goddamn thing over and over again. Then you conclude the route by just warping back to Weenie and just driving to the finish line. Then, things are the exact same again. Obviously knowing at this point that we can 2-frame the floating block token, and now that we're men. And now here's a way that I say regressed in some capacity. I didn't do XD boost because I personally found it too hard, so I was still doing this, and I think this loses like a couple seconds. But still, not a big deal. And then I was doing a route that is very, very stupid. And at the time, it saved a scroll, but even then, it wasn't worth it. So I was doing floating block late, but in SCDA, and because of that, I didn't have enough tokens for Plank. I didn't have enough tokens, in general, so my substitute was to do Sponge Bowl early by 2-framing this token, and that was another thing with Xbox, by the way. If you 2-frame this token, it does save 3 seconds, actually, but relying on it is stupid, because now I missed it. I even missed this one, but that doesn't really matter, and I would just lose, like, 3 seconds, because I got greedy. And then floating block late. The reason why this is so hard, not just a 2-frame, you get a shitty cycle here. And it depends on, like, whether or not you got a 2-frame for 3 meter, and actually, no, not in this route, but that will be the case in future. And then we're just doing the same shit again. And then we load into Plank once again. Everything is, like, practically still the same. The exception is in BBBH. I was doing a slower thing, and I'm, again, regressed in some ways. Not only is this route slower than Electric Bash, we have an objectively easier and faster, like, even if you don't want to do Electric Bash, there's still a faster and objectively easier method than this path. But yeah, this was the standard path if you didn't want to do Electric Bash at this point in time. And then, for SCDA 2, I wasn't doing, Sonic Wave Guitar and Sponge Ball. I was doing Sonic Wave Guitar and Floating Block. And this is risky to do this fucking late. And I missed a 2-frame anyway, so not only did I not save time with that route, here's another thing. There is a thing called Ice Physics Glitch, and basically, there is a bug in this game from boot up. So, as you can see, let me put it back down to 1 times speed. So, as you can see, on these blocks, on these ice blocks, are going very slow. So I'm trying to jump to get around it, right? This is what it's supposed to be like normally. However, there is a glitch known as Ice Physics Glitch, and it allows you to go a lot faster on these, Dude, this literally looks like slow-mo. What the fuck? Dude. Anyway. The way that you lose Ice Physics Glitch is by getting hit by spit or, standing on frozen lava or goo. Oh, well, where could that have happened, you may be asking? Where could you have... Are you that dumb that you got hit by spit? No, that's not what happened, right? Dude, this literally looks like slow-mo. Anyway, this is what happened. I stood on ice. We didn't know how Ice Physics Glitch worked back in the day. So, not only was this floating block late route almost not saving time anyway, even if you grabbed a token, it barely saved anything. It wasn't saving me anything anyway, because I missed the 2-frame. So, that's why I say regressed. I was just doing a fucking objectively harder route for nearly no time save, even when I did get it. I think that's it for routing stuff. Yeah. And I did eventually fix this. So now we get to the current world record, and I'm using this because, you know, there isn't too much to go over anymore. One thing that happened is that the one subjective thing is that I'm doing sandwich driving 102 early because there's a trick here known as sandwich out of bounds. It's pretty hard, but it doesn't save a lose time to do it now, so I'm, you know. But you would do it from SpongeBob, or you can do it from Bounce, but that's a bit risky. So one way that this route has evolved... I'm not doing sandwich driving after grabbing this token, and I'm upgrading Cartwheel here. So, as for sandwich driving, we realize that the fade out here is fast. If you warp away, it loses a second because you're not getting a fast fade out. So, it saves a second. If you are going to do sandwich driving early, it is faster to do it from SpongeBall, because then you still get to do that and get the fast fade out. So that's a second time save right there. And I'm not doing floating block now, so I have to do it way later in the run. However, buffers got found to make token frames and 1-frames in general like a lot easier. It's still not free, but they've definitely gone from really hard to easy. Some of them, so yeah. Also, here's another massive thing. However, it technically doesn't affect routing, because we still only collect 2 tokens. There's a trick called Rub It Up Skip, very hard. You just skip, like, the whole level, basically. Oh yeah, the reason why you couldn't do 3 rub-a-dub dumb jumps before in the old route with doing 4 rub-a-dub tokens, you had to get the target's full ring challenge, or else you'd like soft lock yourself basically. So you have to get the targets in the first token, or the second token, and then do ring, and then macho. Then with the route update, you didn't have to worry about the targets at all, so you could literally just do 2 dumb jumps. It does soft lock you out of ring, but ring is slow anyway. It's even... ring, without even factoring the targets, is slower than what it got replaced by, so... You know. Then, this route also has no different... Like, you don't do any extra rub-a-dub tokens because you'd have to get the targets. If we could find a way to skip ring, that'd be enormous, but even then, because this has been renamed to no major glitches, we probably wouldn't allow it anyway. We'd have to make quite a case for it. It'd have to have a slow setup and be done on every version, and be hard, and pretty just something, you know. It'd have to not be major, it'd have to not save that much and be done by every version. So, yeah. Probably anyway, or we'd have to argue that it's an exploit and not a glitch, depending on however it could be done, I don't know. So yeah, we get the update. Obviously, like, this shit's the same. And then I'm going from rub-a-dub to 3K bungee. So... this is only fast with the 2-frame, but... And it saves half a second. So, long story short, doing flood and block late comes with a problem. Right? And that problem is that, so... This game lets you buffer cartwheel inputs. It lets you buffer inputs through loads. And so we buffer cartwheel here, and it saves like half a second. However, it is not... your input gets eaten from a sliding or driving level. So we warp from rub-a-dub to 3K, so that we could do 3K bungee and then flood and block, and then we retain a half a second time save. A little bit risky, but the buff is easy. And then, of course, we buffer this, and then the flood and block late time save for this level is concluded. I guess something to do technically with a routing thing is just like a path that we take in Rock Slide. Wow, I sucked eggs there. But yeah, you just take this path here, avoid hand triggers, and then you drop down. It's called Skydive, saves like 9 seconds if you do it properly. And then there's a faster drop here, but that, you know... you could buffer this, and then... This is also not a routing thing, but already here, so I might as well say... There's a jump here, it's a 1-frame, but we buffer it, and then you just, yeah. Now the men has changed, Actually, hold on, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back again. When I record, like, pre-nighttime, I talk louder, and I run out of breath a lot faster. You know, the anime video was 3.5 hours, you know, because I was so quiet. And I was able to ramble more in that. I gotta focus a little more with this one, so I'm thinking about it more. But yeah, I just had a Twix. And I'm feeling more energized. So here's another thing, and this got found a while ago. Oh, wait. That's... I forgot about this. Okay, so... What got found... Hold on, the music stopped, but I can literally just, like, throw it back a little bit. Yeah, there we go. We will look at the no pause storage world record to see what we were also doing in no major glitches. So... Go to Now Men, and this is a reroute. It saves like 7 seconds. Okay, so we found out something called bungee late, where you grabbed the bungee warp early, and then warped to it later, so that you could bowl the eel sooner. This eel, because otherwise we have to watch like a very slow, like, thing. And then it got optimized even more. So you jump on to this thing, like we did before, but then you bowl from a distance so that he already starts moving. Grab the warp, and yeah, it saves like 7 seconds, right? However, no major glitches had a severe manliness point problem, a manly problem. You know, it was fine before, but Rubber Dub Skip removed more manlies, and it really, really started to, like, get bad. So, it got to the point of not having enough Another Men at the beginning, and then it got to the point of, well, of this. I do get enough, but only barely for this part. It's worth upgrading here if you have the upgrade points, but otherwise... And also, this is only affecting, like, world record level, by the way. I mean, the manlies will affect high, intermediate level players too, but it's only, like, horrible at, like, the world record level. Oh, wait, no, I'm not even upgrading for some reason. So, this changed the route in a pretty significant way in this category. Because if you did have enough to upgrade here, you'd have to, and you did upgrade, you'd have to grind an extra stack in SCDA. But if you didn't have enough, then you immediately lose time, but then you only needed to get 1 stack from SCDA. But then you were still coasting. We need 7,000 by a certain point, by BBBH. And we just didn't have enough a lot of the time. Well, not a lot of the time, but, like, you know, occasionally. But yeah, the manly route is, like, really bad. And you can and again, it's ironic, right? Okay, so you get a lot of manlies from this tunnel normally, but because I don't have upgraded bowl, the bowl down here is, it doesn't have a big shockwave, which means I'm not getting as many boxes down the slide, which means I'm ironically losing even more manlies. It's stupid. Is there a way to combat this issue? Yeah, there's a stack in Weenie that you can get, and as long as you don't get bad combos and bad RNG, because, you know, where enemies are positioned and stuff is like RNG, and you might be able to combo into them. If you don't get bad luck and stuff, or just don't miss any don't miss any stacks, yeah, okay, I could get enough to bowl, to upgrade bowl, but most of the time, I'd still need to nab these manlies down here. And you can grab them, but the ball shot has to be significantly more precise. And I did get it. As you can see, my manlies are shooting up. But if I missed it, then I automatically don't have enough, and I suffer a big time loss. And it's pretty bad. So, you know, I just didn't want to get Weenie Stack, especially when I could... You know, most of the time I just took an L and just didn't upgrade here anyway. Then the route stays the same for a bit, and then here's a reroute. It's been known since 2019. I tried to implement it a few times, but now I've been doing it since 2021, I believe. So instead of doing Circ, you just immediately get the damage boost. And then basically you warp here and then do Circ later, because even though... You go through a load, you still skip the entire token animation, and you skip, like, a bit of movement. It saves, like, 3 seconds or 2.5. And as you can see, I'm finally not grabbing the Sponge Ball warp early. However, that's for a slightly different reason later on. So yeah, doing Flownbach Lay as before. However, I'm being smart about it this time. And warping after Dennis, which only loses a scroll. And we really need the tokens anyway, so it's not even like we need this anyway these days. So after this, I'm gonna 2-frame the token, so I actually get the full benefits of the time save here. And then I just warp to Circ, and then this is what Circ looks like now. Oh, I forgot to mention earlier, actually. Well, because Cole was doing the fast strat anyway, but when Cole grabbed this token, he cartwheeled to the Foggers. It's faster, or not faster, it's safer, and most people do this. They collect the token, drown, and then do, because It is a little easier, only loses like a couple seconds, and you get a lot more speed on the ice cube, which means you don't need to be anywhere near as, like, you don't need good jump spacing and shit. This level's nitro route changed a lot, but that doesn't really... You know, the path that you take is still the same, so... Don't really know if any of this... I mean, there's this trick that I missed. Dude, I thought this run was really good. I remember talking about how this run's, like, super good, but it's actually abysmal. What the hell? How did I... Okay, the rest of the run must have been amazing, because all the mistakes I've seen are stupid, but, like, the rest of the run must have been godlike or something, I don't know. Because I remember this run being good. There's also Sunday Jump. This has been known since, like, 2018. It's pretty hard. Okay, so... The guess route is different, the faucet route is different, and the target route is different. So this faucet route says 3 seconds, I believe, or it might be 2.5. So you just don't grab it just yet. And then you, grab a faucet, and then you jump over here, and then drown, and then respawn. I don't know how it took us so long to find that out, but yeah, we found out in, like, 2020, I think. Then the target reroute. It's very slightly faster. Not as cool, objectively easier. So instead of dying, you just immediately, like, go to the blue wire. Skips a bit of movement then, and just, like, a death animation. Well, actually, no, it doesn't skip a death animation. We die later anyway, but it skips movement. So, again, this literally saves, like, a second, but it's objectively easier. So this shit's the same as before, but now we're gonna jump up here, and then we're going to go around, and then we're gonna go to the yellow path, and then the orange path. However, we are going to die in the electricity instead of going around, and then we have to go around instead of doing lamp jump, but even then, the whole thing, again, is easier and saves a tiny bit. And then guess 2 is the same still. And so is plank. And then the order that I did this in is different. We eventually realize it doesn't matter if we go top to bottom and we can do it in whatever, not literally, but, you know, from bottom to top or top to bottom, any order that we want. However, we are actually doing it in a specific order for a reason. The hardest segment is BBBH, but we're doing it last. So, of course, we got SCDA guitar. Some things never change. Then afterwards, this is what... Okay, so it already was a teeny tiny bit faster to do this in late game anyway, but there was a big RNG factor. Then we found out that you could just do this, right? We walk back as SpongeBob, and then we do this, and then we can just walk to the... So, this saves like 2 seconds and is easier, and obviously is only fast when paired with guitar, so, you know, no XD boost, don't need to do that, don't need to do the old strat. This is where it's at. So what is essentially happening? You press select, right? And then you press it again shortly after, not immediately, but shortly after, to generate as much lag as possible. And then you hold Y and R, and you get like this big extended jump. And then you can use that to make it over here. So this route is less fucking goofy compared to before. And then we're doing depression. That this is all the same. And then this has changed. So originally we immediately did guitar here, but we're not doing that. We're just booking it. And this is the same until we get to this point. The reason why we do this later, it saves like 4 seconds to change, to activate guitar storage here because it warps us to the pad anyway, so why not take advantage of that? You have to be careful though. For the rest of the run, this disables Patrick's cartwheel. For this to save as much time as possible. So we switch partway in, because that is how, we wait until the game switches to Patrick in the portahead, and then we activate the guitar. I mean, the SpongeBob, and then we activate the guitar challenge. So we need to wait. However, if we you can just walk out of the portahead and then activate the challenge. But that doesn't save quite as much time. So if you want this to save as much time as possible, it will disable Patrick's cartwheel, and that is risky. It means you can't do a backup strat and BBBH backwards if all goes to fuck. And you need to do Depression too early anyway. But yeah, just doing guitar now. And then, Drown, Respawn. The reason why I use an upgraded guitar here is just to line it up with the electric bash cycle. It's not really a routing thing, but yeah. And then the rest of this is just like the same stuff. But the reason why we do BBBH guitar, or why we do BBBH 2 last, I only have enough at this point by about 250 manlies, and I don't even always have enough. Again, it depends on the route that you're doing and stuff, and I did have enough this time. I had good manlies, but I could have easily not had good manlies. So, essentially, it is to get upgraded guitar, or else you lose a bunch of time here. So that's why you... So, and even though we don't get many manlies from Depression and SCDA Sponge Bowl, you get a tiny bit more, just to increase your odds, you know, so it's just important to do this last. Of course, if you're a lower level player, it literally doesn't matter, but I'd still probably recommend doing it first anyway. It's probably the hardest segment. Yeah, and then this shit's all the same technically. I mean, there's a cycle here, not a route. Fast corkscrew, very hard, saves like 9.5. Yeah, and then obviously you can 2 from the token. And then you just warp to plank. And then the rest of the run is the same. I mean, if we're talking routing, as in pathing, there is a guitar glide here. We used to do a trick here called puzzle skip. But now we need to, like, not do puzzle skip to then do a trick called guitar glide. You do lag, glide over. I'm not really explaining it, do more lag to clip back in, and then, yeah, saves a bunch of time. And that is where the route technically currently stands today. Is there any theory stuff that could be done? Yes. There is, like, well, we're gonna get to that. The only notable thing, there is an out of bounds route in Weenie that saves, like, a max of, like, 7 seconds. It's not RTA viable, but if, it doesn't save as much time in this category, so it's not even up for consideration. It'd save, like, 4 or 5. And long story short, it's to do with BBBH backwards. And I think that's basically it. I'm really trying to think now. I feel like we're doing, like, everything. Oh, I forgot to mention why we upgrade to the end of 3K. Yeah, we switched to upgrading at the end of 3K and at the end of Weenie for Cartwheel and Slam, respectively. The TLDR, pretty much, is that, if you upgrade, it, like, guarantees a lag spike eventually. And the lag spike can range in how much it loses, but it can lose as much as, like, half a second. It can even eat inputs and really fuck you over. But we can prevent that. If we upgrade to the end of 3K and Weenie, there is nowhere for the game to lag, so that is just the short of it. Yeah, so now we can finally get on to the theoretical reroute, and by theoretical, I mean I'm already going to do it when I finally go back to this category. It's pretty big. Essentially, I'm going to be using all tokens for this example. It's similar to No Major Glitches, but it does have a big thing. And we will be using it to show this reroute of sorts in NMG. And it's kind of gone full circle, sort of. So where it starts applying... Well, when you see the full effects, right? So here's a cool little route, right? You want to see a cool little route? Where is it? Here's a cool route, okay? So, these are known as plank lag clips. Again, is abusing lag. A little hard, but... So part of the time save is... So, to do lag clips, you need guitar. So, we have 40 tokens here to upgrade guitar at this point in all tokens. And then we immediately do a lag clip and take advantage of that. And then we jump to the left, and then we grab this token, we respawn up because we grabbed the warp. And then you can make your way back here. And so you have skipped, like, all the time it takes to get the ice skating token practically, and you got to bungee, like, a little faster, too. And then doing bungee like this means the move doesn't spawn, which means you can't get fucked by the moves, potentially, if you get unlucky with the target, so that's good. And then, after this token, we do another lag clip. Hold on, I'm sucking eggs, apparently. And then we get into the combat arena, and then that basically just concludes the route. This saves, like, a little over 30 seconds, and, like, a third of the time save is from having 40 tokens immediately. Well, how does this apply to NMG? BBBH backwards got in the way of that, right? Well, we did theorize doing BBBH backwards in mid-game. You'd have to climb all the way up the slide in BBBH. And it was scuffed and horribly difficult, and it still lost a tiny bit of time. But there was the theory thing there. But now we are able to make it work because of stupid technicality shit, right? So, like, you know, so essentially this NMG route that I'm talking about would bring BBBH forwards back in the run. What this would do is completely fix the Manleys so that they're not a problem in the slightest. It would more so justify doing weenie out of bounds if you really wanted to. Still never being done, I hope. But, yeah, it saves more time there. And it lets you do these Planktopoulos lag clips. But there is more to it than that. So, there has been a faster throwing fruit discovered recently that saves like 2 seconds. Like casual throwing fruit. Like the one that Cole did, but 2 seconds faster. Like that sort of thing. So that made BBBH backwards technically save a bit less, because then we made forwards a bit faster, right? And this do be true, though. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah. Oh wait, no, wait, what? Wait, yeah, BBBH backwards, right? Yeah, so BBBH backwards saves about 45 seconds, and plank clips save about 34, I think it was, or 35. It was like 34, I think. So there's an 11-second gap in between the two, right? So then why would I be doing the route? Well, the most consistent thing you can do, you know how I said earlier for Nalo Men, you could either upgrade bowl or not upgrade bowl? And then that determines if you get the SCDA stack or not. It is just more consistent. A lot more consistent to get the SCDA stack. However, that stack costs 9.5 seconds. So now, BBBH backwards is only saving like 1.5 seconds. And then, to guarantee that you get enough, you gotta get Weenie stack. And so then, they about break even at this point. And the Manleys, so they roughly break even, but RTA, this new plank lag clip route is more consistent, because, Manleys are never ever a problem anymore unless you just skip, like, multiple stacks, which means that you can even skip more boxes and stuff, which will save you frames. But even compared to, like, you know, it future-proofs the category. You know, most tricks skip Manleys. If we find some more tricks in early game, hell, Weenie Out of Bounds skips 50 Manleys. Most tricks skip Manleys. Imagine if we found something in Sandwich Driving to skip like 50, 100 Manleys. That could happen. Imagine in 3K we skip a bunch of Manleys. Oh wait, no, we don't really get any in Rubber Dub anymore. BBBH. So This will become an inevitability anyway, this route. But also, it just stops BS from occurring. Are the plank lag clips hard? Yes. Is BBBH backwards the coolest thing ever? Yes. Is it therefore then a shame to be removing it? Yes. Does this make the category way too similar to no pause storage and effectively, again, just make the category worse overall? Yes. Doesn't it all literally, like, at a world record level, aren't you just objectively losing time over other players? Yes. But yeah, that's just how it be, I guess. So they about break even, except for one more thing, right? How do we get enough tokens? After all, right? If you do BBBH forwards, we'd have 38 tokens entering plank, not 40. And then I guess you could get throwing fruit, but then menuing gets in the way. Well, you lose some time for menuing. That is true. And then we only have 39 tokens. Now, the answer to how we get the 40th is Depression Combat. We could do it in mid-game, and that does lose time for menuing. However, there is a route, and all tokens shows it off, partially. So basically, you two-frame this token, and then you walk forward a little bit to grab the floating block warp, and then you just do the end level token, and then you have to do now the men floating block later. This normally doesn't work in no major glitches because if we're skipping a token, we'd only have 24 going into SCDA. We need 25. However, Depression Combat fixes that, and after factoring Depression Combat's time loss for menuing, it still saves like a second and a half. So it actually saves time to do it early. The reason why I wasn't doing it before in my world record run in no major glitches is because I couldn't guarantee I'd have enough manlies, but now I can. I'm still not factoring that aspect of it into the timing, but yeah. So we get that token with no actual time cost. So the only thing we have to go out of our way for is throwing fruit. And then we get to do plank lag clips. So yeah, the run would be very, very similar to no pause. So again, just very basic stuff. And then we do SD102 early, and then the rest of it's basically no pause storage until this point where we two-frame the token. So it's basically just no pause storage as tokens, and therefore it's manlies, which are completely fine at the moment. Plus SD102 manlies, which isn't a ton, but is definitely like a couple hundred or something. Then you would do Nalloman Floating Block after SCDA2, and then you would do Depression... you do Depression Combat during Nalloman. Then you would do Nalloman Floating Block and Throwing Fruit after SCDA2. Which also means that we're doing... one issue with that... One issue with cramming things earlier into the run, and one advantage of doing stuff later in the run. If there is a hard thing, you get to do it earlier. So, because I'm doing BBBH early, I have to enter Nallo Men, one of the hardest segments in the run, like 2.5 to 3 minutes later. That might not sound like much, but it does pile up. And now, I also got to do Depression Combat, granted without Floating Block, but that's fast. I have to do Depression Combat as well before SCDA. So now I'm entering SCDA 5-6 minutes slower than before. And that means, like, every reset just hits harder, it's more shitty. And the early game is now more reset heavy because there are things that can go wrong in BBBH. However, I get to do fast corkscrew earlier, which is nice. Oh yeah, also another time save. Upgraded guitar... Its animation is slower than unupgraded guitar, but it does more damage to Neptune. However, because of this reroute, you don't have to upgrade in BBBH. This lets you use unupgraded guitar in Plank 4 times and Neptune twice before you need to upgrade. So that also saves like a second and a half. So this, as long as you don't fuck up the Plank lag clips at all, does save time, RTA. And as long as you get disco, skip, fish, try and stuff. So it is a little harder, but it's more consistent, and this will just be an inevitable thing in future. Like when I made this route, if anything, My sum of best should have gone up a tiny bit, but it actually went down by like 10 seconds, and I double checked everything. I will, go back to this category soon, because I didn't realize I made so many mistakes, and one, is more consistent now, the runners. But yeah, yeah, it's pretty nuts. Um, but yeah, I don't think I mistimed anything with the route, and it's still like faster than before. My golds are. So yeah, 119 soon, TM. So is there anything that could make this route BBBH backwards come back? Yes, actually, there is things that can be. Oh, by the way, so what the backtracking turned into back in the day after BBBH backwards was SCDA guitar and then SCDA sponge bowl, then BBBH guitar, throwing fruit, disco, and sponge bowl, and then depression, guitar, and combat. What this turns it into is it turns into SCDA sponge bowl. Yeah. SCDA guitar and SCDA sponge bowl, BBBH guitar and depression guitar. So the only thing with any actual difficulty is SCDA sponge bowl, and it's not even that hard. And if we like really, 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 really wanted to, you could still do SCDA sponge bowl early game, mid game, and lose like 2 seconds. There's an extremely there's like a task strat, but if it became viable one day, maybe people would chuck it earlier into the run, and then the late game backtracking would literally just be fucking guitar challenges, which would be kind of funny. But yeah, the way that that BBBH backwards could come back, one is if we switch to hard drive, because hard drive can't do lag. Number two is if yeah. Number two is if we find some sort of manly duplication glitch. And number three is if we found some sort of way to warp to BBBH guitar in mid game so that we can do BBBH backwards mid game. I said it was slow because you had to climb up the slide, but if you could just warp straight to guitar, it'd be significantly faster, and you'd still get to do the lag clips. So those are like pretty much the three like theoretical things that could bring it back. The most hard drive's an inevitability in the next like 5 to 10 years, but yeah. But until then, this route is here to stay. So at this point, I can just list off the tokens that aren't done in the run. So the tokens that aren't done in the run are BBB, Rubadub, Ring, and Macho. BBBH Combat, Now Men Combat. I think that's it for the main stuff. And then we're not doing Weenie Time Ring on Macho, Rockslide Time Ring on Macho, Sunday Time Ring on Macho, or Knucklehead Time Ring on Macho. Is there anything else that could significantly change the route? Yes. So if we could find a way to, again, it depends on if it's a major glitch or not, but if there's a way to like skip combat arenas or only have to do a wave or something like that, or make the token like accessible from the beginning, even just for one of the combats that we don't do, that would replace the slowest token in the run. Right now we actually do have leniency with the tokens for Now That We're Men. Oh wait, I just realized something. We have enough tokens for SCDA anyway, don't we? Because of BBBH backwards. Wait, hold on. BBBH forwards. Because I said earlier that we needed enough tokens, but Let me think. Yeah, because we used to enter Now Men with 20, but now we'd have 22. So that means you don't have to do Depression Combat. Huh, that's a small time save. You don't need to do Depression Combat during Now Men. You'll enter SCDA with enough tokens anyway. So what you would do then is warp to Depression Combat after Throwing Fruit, which would be done after SCDA 2. So you can do SCDA before doing Depression Combat. You just have to do Depression Combat before Sunday. And I think that's the only thing that gets in, yeah. So that would save a few scrolls, and that is faster, and it is just better for us too. Damn. Well, that's cool. I like a good time save. I'll have to fix my splits. But yeah, so because we, even without, well, let's say with, so we'd enter SCDA, assuming you do combat early, with 28 tokens. So we have the option to skip stuff, not Creek, but we have the option to skip stuff. Actually, hold on. Can we skip Creek? No, because we need 40 tokens for... Yeah. If you do Creek late, you need to use Guitar, and, like, we just don't have the Spit token. But if we could, like, cheat... Like, if we could get a bunch more tokens early, like, for fast, like, for free, like, for example, some sort of Rock Slide Hans disable, like, that would give us an extra token, then we could do stuff like that, but that, you know, get into that. So, like, if you could do, Rock Slide Hans disable, for example, or, BBBH combat, like, early or something, you know, just grabbing the token, Now the Men, the token that it would replace, I think it would either be, Sandwich Macho or Depression Combat. I'm almost positive it'd be Depression Combat. Then I think it'd be Sandwich Driving, and then SCDA Guitar, and then Sandwich Ring, and then SCDA Guitar. I think those are like the slowest tokens in order. Sandwich Ring is really slow, but because of Macho, especially because of Sandwich Out of Bounds, Sandwich Out of Bounds saves like 16 seconds, and so that just effectively made the Sandwich Driving tokens faster. And because you need to do Ring before Macho, like, you know. And also, Hans Disable might be considered a major glitch anyway, but... Yeah, so, like, that's basically the major reroute that could happen. Either BBBH backwards mid-game, or, obtaining a combat token early, or Hans Disable. We could get results with that. Otherwise, not really anything. And yeah, that's basically the video. I hope you enjoyed. I didn't think the video would be this long, as always. And speaking of as always, the music has not been playing for the past, like, 20 billion years. I apologize. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.